Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, what we're going to talk about on this episode of the Bullet Points this morning is something that we were warning about when we had the Bipartisan Safety Act. You know, that whole red flag law funding thing that Biden signed into law with the support of Republicans and Democrats in the Senate? Well, in there was a big part that we hit all around 18 to 21-year-olds with enhanced background checks. We were hitting on the fact that it was very vague and there was a system that was rife for abuse should someone want to do that. The article that I'm going to show you is linked in the description box below. This is from the NRA's Institute for Legal Action. This is from their site on a report that they have around just such abuses. This is incredibly important to understand because if the FBI is truly doing what this report asserts, this is a big problem because they have all the addresses of everyone who buys a gun 18 to 21. And they are issuing a delay automatically in the state of Maine. This is incredibly important as a test case. Everything is always linked. I'm going to say a quick word from our sponsor, Vulcan Arms, and then we're going to dive into it, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think on this one. And spread this out because this is important. The Vulcan Weatherlock gun bag is one-of-a-kind technology that resists the elements. Their Weatherlock technology is revolutionizing the way you store your firearms. Whether you are on a trip, at the range, or working out in the field, the Weatherlock series can stand up to the toughest environments. They are rated IPX6. They make a big impact on dust, on mud, on water, and they are puncture resistant. This is something that might be a great accessory for what you're looking for when you go to the range next, and there's a link in the description box below. Thank you so much to Vulcan Arms for making this content possible, and now let's dive in, my brothers and sisters, as we have got to address something that could be a really bad abuse of the system from the FBI through the background check system. Let's get it. Reports suggest Biden administration already exceeding its authority under the new gun laws. Shocker. Let's keep going. Again, everything is linked if you want to dive in deeper. I've picked out the summation that you need to know. Last June, the NRA announced its opposition to a wide-ranging gun control bill that the misnamed Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, or BSCA, going forward in this article. That was being rammed through the U.S. Senate with bipartisan support. We warned at the time that the bill, contrary to how it was being marketed to the public, could be abused to restrict lawful gun purchases, infringe upon the rights of law-abiding Americans, and use federal dollars to fund gun control measures being adopted by state and local politicians. We also said that, quote, this bill leaves too much discretion in the hands of government officials and also contains undefined and overbroad provisions inviting interference with our constitutional freedoms. Very well said. I do remember the NRA being involved in this, but I also, to be fair, remember them being mostly quiet on this. There wasn't a whole lot of resistance, but that's not the point of this video. Listen to this. Now, reports on how the Biden administration plans to implement the bill suggest our concerns and warnings will be completely vindicated. Again, keep in mind, 18 to 20-year-olds. Those reports, if accurate, show the FBI is already overstepping its authority under the law to interfere with entirely lawful firearm purchases and to compile information on lawful firearm buyers. Those two parts are incredibly important. Both developments would set dangerous precedents and undermine protections in federal law against firearm registries. They also demonstrate how the FBI can exploit vague statutory language in administrating NICS to not just target criminals or high-risk persons, but to burden and discourage firearm purchases generally. Translation: they're going to know where you live, you got all your data. They're also going to have discretion to say if you are or not going to get a deny or delay. In this case, again, even the NRA is saying if this report is accurate, and I want to reiterate, if this report is accurate, I will follow it. This is not a good thing. Wait until I show you what they're doing in Maine as a test case. One of the BSCA's most concerning provisions in its differential treatment of young adults seeking to purchase firearms from FFLs. Prior law allowed adults aged 18 to 20, a very common age range of those serving in the U.S. military, to obtain long guns from FFLs on the same basis as any other purchaser. That was the way that it was. But after the BSCA passed, it changed to now doing the enhanced background checks, if you guys recall that. However, presumably have discretion to determine if they wish to participate in the scheme. Moreover, the statutory text includes there must be cause to further delay the transaction. If there is no such cause, then the transaction should proceed as normal. So, on the enhanced background checks, there needs to be cause for them to say, hey, we've got 10 days to do a more enhanced background check on these individuals. But there has to be a cause. That's the important piece. Well, here we go. Look what's happening in this report. Nevertheless, a firearm industry consulting firm published a report last week on how the FBI plans to implement these provisions. Using Maine as the beginning locale for the rollout, according to the report, quote, any person attempting to purchase or residing in Maine under the age of 21 will receive an initial delay to allow the NICS section to make the necessary contact with state and local entities as laid out within the BSCA. They're going to get an automatic delay. Interesting. Initial, but automatic. Listen to what happens when you get a delay. This is the part where they get you. In other words, NICS will no longer be instant with respect to young adult purchasers. Every such purchaser will now be automatically delayed. So essentially, you're now extending the background check system to 10 days. It's de facto gun control. This is what they've wanted to do for a very long time with extending the waiting periods. Now they've got it to in Maine where they're actually testing to allow anyone under 21 to have to await at least 10 days or up to 10 days due to the initial delay applied to every single person. That's important because it's so bad. Here's the actual report that they've linked just for your review. NICS background check for purchasers under 21. As a result of the passage of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act of 2022, the NICS section is initially implementing the required enhanced background check processes for persons between the ages of 18 to 20. On Friday, Maine, any person attempting to purchase October 14 in one state, the enhanced check will begin with the state of Maine. Any person attempting to purchase or residing in Maine under the age of 21 will receive an initial delay to allow the NICS section to make the necessary contact with state and local entities as laid out within the BSCA. As with other delay scenarios, FFLs will be provided with the appropriate Brady transfer date. This is the incredibly important part because look what happens when you get a delay. Moreover, there is no mention in the industry consultant's report that cause of any sort will be required to justify the delay, other than the age of the proposed transferee. This is rife for a lawsuit because now you're discriminating against anyone 18 to 20 just because of their age. That's not a good look. Thus, the FBI appears ready to read the cause requirement out of the statute entirely, turning what is supposed to be provision allowing more time in cases where there is a specific question about a person's eligibility into across-the-board 10-day waiting period for young adults. It's a de facto waiting period. This is what happens when you rush through something, senators, and you have all of these ambiguous terms and nothing well-defined. You leave it up to statutory definitions and interpretation by executive bureaucracies, i.e. ATF, FBI. What else do you need? This is what they're doing. Anyway, here's what happens when you get a delay. The interpretation of this law is even more problematic in the light of the FBI's equally expansive reading of another recently passed law incorporating into the Consolidated Appropriations Act. Under that provision, the so-called NICS Denial Notification Act of 2022, the FBI is statutorily required to report to local or tribal law enforcement authorities any instance in which a person attempts to acquire a firearm from an FFL and NIC determines the receipt of a firearm by a person will be violating the subsections. So they have to let the local authorities know if you get a delay. Well, in Maine, every single person is getting a delay. So that means that every single person is getting relayed to their local police departments. Nevertheless, after CSA 22's passage, the same firearm industry consulting group disclosed that the FBI will require FFLs to report a proposed transferee's address in every case in which a denial or a delay is imposed. The CS22 itself, however, says nothing about the reporting of the buyer's address information in the case of a mere delay. Do you see what they're doing? Well, if you guys get a delay, we're going to need to go ahead and put that information directly to local authorities. Okay, we covered that. Then a few months later, it became, oh, well, now every single individual is going to get a delay because they're 18 to 20. So now you're looking at a de facto information sharing on every single person that buys a gun, 18 to 20, all through slight interpretations of multiple laws. And that's what we've got for you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.